First contact jitters. The Galactic Academy's grand atrium buzzed with activity as students from 1,000 worlds mingled, their tentacles, appendages, and assorted sensory organs twitching with excitement. It was orientation day for the new semester, and this year promised to be unlike any other in the Academy's 10,000-year history. For the first time, representatives from a newly discovered species would be joining the ranks of the galaxy's brightest minds. Humans had arrived. Zixlor, Exanthian with shimmering scales and multifaceted eyes, nudged his friend Gloop, an amorphous blob of sentient goo. "Can you believe it?" Zixlorp whispered, his scales flickering with anticipation. "We're going to meet real Deathworlders." Gloop burbled nervously, a series of air bubbles popping on its surface. "I heard they can survive radiation levels that would liquefy most species. Are you sure they're safe to be around?" Before Zixlor could respond, a hush fell over the atrium. The massive doors at the far end swung open, revealing a group of bipedal creatures with varying skin tones and hair colors. The humans had entered the room. As the newcomers made their way through the crowd, aliens parted like a cosmic sea, a mixture of fear and fascination evident in their reactions. The humans, for their part, seemed oblivious to the stir they were causing. They chatted among themselves, some yawning, others clutching strange cylindrical containers. One human, a female with curly red hair and freckles, approached Zixlorp and Gloop. "Hi there," she said, her voice surprisingly cheerful for someone who had just traveled across the galaxy. "I'm Emily. Nice to meet you." Zixlort's scales shimmered in greeting, while Gloop extended a pseudopod in what it hoped was a friendly gesture. "Greetings, Deathworlder Emily," Zixlorp said. "We are honored to make your acquaintance. I am Zixlorp, and this is Gloop." Emily laughed, a sound that startled nearby aliens. "Just Emily is fine. No need for the Deathworlder title, though I guess it's kind of cool." She took a sip from her cylindrical container and sighed contentedly. "Man, I needed that. The jet lag from interstellar travel is no joke." Gloop's curiosity overcame its nervousness. "If you don't mind us asking, what is that substance you're consuming? Is it some kind of strength-enhancing elixir?" Emily looked at her container, then back at the aliens. It's just coffee. Don't tell me you guys don't have coffee out here in the galaxy." The blank look she received answered her question. Emily's eyes widened. "Oh boy, are you in for a treat. Coffee is like liquid energy. It helps us stay awake and focused. Most humans can't function without it, especially in the morning." Zixlorp's scales flickered rapidly, a sign of intense interest. "Fascinating. Your species requires a stimulant to operate at peak efficiency. How did you evolve such a dependency?" Emily shrugged. "I don't know if we require it, exactly. It's more like, okay, imagine the best thing ever. But it also makes you feel super-powered. That's coffee." As they conversed, more humans joined their group, each clutching their own coffee containers. The aliens watched in a mixture of horror and amazement as the humans casually consumed cup after cup of the dark liquid. One particularly jittery human, a tall male with glasses, interjected, "Did you know coffee has been linked to increased lifespan in humans? Some studies suggest it might even help prevent certain diseases." Gloop rippled in disbelief. "You mean to say this? Coffee is not only a performance enhancer but also a medicine. Truly, your species is full of wonders." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Chancellor Zorblax, a towering, multi-limbed being whose skin sparkled like the night sky. "Welcome, students of the galaxy," the Chancellor's voice boomed. "We are honored to have our new human friends joining us this year. May this be the beginning of a grand cultural exchange." As the Chancellor droned on about academic excellence and interstellar cooperation, Emily leaned in to whisper to her new alien friends, "Hey, once this snooze fest is over, want to hit up the cafeteria? I hear they got these things called quantum cookies that exist in multiple flavors simultaneously until you bite them." Zixlorp and Gloop exchanged glances. The human's casual disregard for the Chancellor's speech was shocking, but her enthusiasm was infectious. "We would be honored to accompany you, Emily," Zixlorp said. As the orientation wrapped up and students began filing out of the atrium, a commotion near the human group caught everyone's attention. One of the humans, a short, stocky male, was doing something that defied alien comprehension. He was balancing his entire body on his hands, feet pointed towards the ceiling, walking on his palms. "Jason, what the hell are you doing?" Emily called out, more amused than surprised. The upside-down human grinned. "Handstand walking contest back home. Gotta keep in practice, even in low gravity." The aliens watched in awe as Jason navigated through the crowd on his hands, deftly avoiding tentacles and appendages. Murmurs rippled through the alien students. "Did you see that? Their joints must be incredibly flexible. How do they maintain balance in that inverted position? Is this some sort of human mating ritual?" Emily just shook her head, a mix of embarrassment and pride on her face. "And that, my new friends, is humanity in a nutshell. We'll try anything once, especially if someone tells us we can't do it." As they made their way to the cafeteria, Zixlorp and Gloop realized that their academic year was going to be far more interesting than they had ever imagined. These humans, with their strange drinks, bizarre physical feats, and boundless curiosity, were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Little did they know, coffee was just the beginning. The human invasion of the Galactic Academy was about to turn the entire universe upside down, sometimes literally. The Great Coffee Shortage. 3 months into the academic year, the Galactic Academy had settled into a new normal. The initial shock of having humans on campus had worn off, replaced by a grudging admiration for the Deathworlders' resilience and ingenuity. However, no one could have predicted the crisis that was about to unfold. It began on a typical morning in the Academy's main cafeteria. Emily, now a familiar face to many alien students, stumbled in with dark circles under her eyes. She made a beeline for the coffee dispensers, only to be met with a sight that turned her blood to ice. The machines were empty. "No, no, no," Emily muttered, frantically pushing buttons. "This can't be happening." Zixlorp slithered up beside her, his scales a concerned shade of blue. "Emily, is everything all right?" Emily turned to her friend, panic evident in her eyes. "The coffee's gone, Six. All of it." As if on cue, more humans began to filter into the cafeteria, each reacting with increasing dismay as they discovered the coffee shortage. Within minutes, the room was filled with drowsy, irritable Deathworlders, their usual morning cheer replaced by zombie-like groans. Gloop oozed over, curiosity bubbling through its gelatinous form. "I don't understand. Can't you just not have coffee?" Jason, the handstand walking champion from orientation day, let out a hollow laugh. "You don't get it, Gloop. Coffee isn't just a drink for us. It's life." News of the shortage spread quickly through the academy. Alien students watched in fascination and mild terror as their human classmates struggled to function. Lectures were disrupted by snoring, lab experiments went awry as sleepy humans misread instructions, and the usual vibrant discussions in the common areas were replaced by lethargic mumbling. Chancellor Zorblax called an emergency meeting of the Academy's administration. "This is unprecedented." The Chancellor's starry skin flickered with concern. "We've never seen an entire species so dependent on a single substance. If we don't resolve this soon, it could jeopardize the entire human exchange program." As the crisis deepened, Emily and her human friends gathered in their dormitory to brainstorm solutions. The room was a sorry sight. Blankets strewn about, empty coffee mugs littering every surface, and a group of disheveled humans fighting to keep their eyes open. "Okay, think," Emily said, pacing back and forth. "There's got to be something on this space station that can replace coffee. We just need to find it." Jason perked up slightly. "What about those Zorgan energy crystals we learned about in xenomineralogy? They're supposed to be pure caffeine, right? Emily shook her head. Too dangerous. Remember what happened when Sixlorp accidentally ingested one? He vibrated so fast, he almost phased through the floor. As the humans debated, word of their plight spread throughout the galaxy. Alien civilizations watched in a mixture of amusement and concern as footage of yawning, stumbling humans made its way across interstellar news networks. Back at the Academy, Sixlorp and Gloop decided to take matters into their own appendages. They approached Professor Quark, the head of the Xenobotany department. Professor, Sixlorp began, his scales shimmering with determination. We need your help. Our human friends are suffering without their coffee. Is there any way we could synthesize it or find a suitable alternative? Professor Quark, a sentient fungus with glowing spores for eyes, pondered for a moment. Interesting challenge. Coffee is a complex organic compound, but perhaps, yes, it just might work. The professor led them to a sealed greenhouse deep within the Academy. Inside, bioluminescent plants from 100 worlds glowed in a dazzling display. Behold, Quark announced, gesturing to a small, unassuming shrub with purple leaves. The insomnia bloom of Nexus Prime. Its nectar is said to keep the planet's native species awake for months at a time. Excitement bubbled through Gloop's form. Do you think it could help the humans? Only one way to find out, the professor replied, carefully extracting some nectar. Meanwhile, the human students had resorted to desperate measures. Emily found Jason attempting to rig a device that would electrically stimulate his brain's wake centers. Jason, no, she yelled, unplugging the contraption. We're tired, not suicidal. Just then, Sixlorp and Gloop burst into the room, carrying a glowing vial of purple liquid. Humans, Sixlorp announced, his scales flickering with excitement. We may have found a solution. The effect was immediate. Every bloodshot human eye in the room locked onto the vial, as if it were the Holy Grail. Emily approached cautiously, sniffing the concoction. What is it? Gloop explained about the insomnia bloom as Sixlorp carefully distributed small doses to each human. The room held its breath as Emily took the first sip. Her eyes widened. Then, like a supernova bursting to life, energy surged through her body. Holy quantum fluctuations, she gasped. This is amazing. One by one, the humans sampled the nectar. The transformation was astonishing. Within minutes, the room was buzzing with revitalized Deathworlders, their minds racing with ideas and their bodies thrumming with energy. News of the miracle nectar spread quickly. The Academy's administration breathed a collective sigh of relief as human students returned to their usual productive selves. Chancellor Zorblax even issued a formal commendation to Sixlorp and Gloop for their initiative. As life at the Academy returned to normal, Emily couldn't help but reflect on the events of the past few days. She found Sixlorp and Gloop in the common area, surrounded by curious aliens eager to hear about their adventure. You guys really saved us, Emily said, giving each of her friends an affectionate pat. On the scales for Sixlorp, carefully on the surface for Gloop. I don't know how to thank you. Sixlorp's scales shimmered with pride. That's what friends are for, Emily. Besides, we've learned so much from you humans. It was time we returned the favor. Gloop burbled in agreement. Although we are curious, why go through all this trouble? Surely humans could function without stimulants if they tried. Emily laughed. Oh, we probably could. But here's the thing about humans, guys. We don't just want to function. We want to thrive, to push boundaries, to do the impossible. And sometimes that takes a little extra boost. As they continued chatting, none of them noticed the small purple leaves beginning to sprout from a nearby potted plant. The insomnia bloom had found a new home, and the Galactic Academy would never be the same again. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of humanity's caffeinated conquest of the stars. Caffeinated diplomacy. The great coffee shortage had come and gone, but its effects rippled through the Galactic Academy and beyond. Word of the humans' dependency on stimulants and their innovative solutions spread across the stars, catching the attention of diplomats, scientists, and cultural attaches from countless alien civilizations. As the next semester began, the Academy found itself hosting an unprecedented number of extraterrestrial visitors, all eager to learn more about the mysterious human beverage called coffee and its purple-leaved alternative, the insomnia bloom. Emily, now in her second semester, found herself thrust into the role of unofficial human ambassador. She stood before a diverse crowd of aliens in the Academy's largest lecture hall, a steaming mug of coffee in one hand and a vial of insomnia bloom nectar in the other. "Welcome, esteemed guests," she began, her voice carrying a confidence that surprised even her. "Today we're going to talk about one of humanity's greatest achievements, the art of staying awake." The crowd chittered, burbled, and flickered with interest as Emily launched into her presentation. She covered the history of coffee on Earth, its cultural significance, and its role in human productivity and innovation. "But coffee is more than just a drink," Emily explained, taking a sip for dramatic effect. "It's a social lubricant, a ritual, a way of life. In human culture, let's grab a coffee is code for let's talk, connect, and maybe change the world a little." As she spoke, Zixlorp and Gloop helped distribute small samples of coffee and insomnia bloom nectar to the curious aliens. The reaction was immediate and varied. A group of methane brothers from the gas giant Jovia Prime inhaled the coffee aroma through specialized filters, their tentacles wiggling with delight. A crystalline being from the silicon-based civilization of Quartzar attempted to absorb the coffee through osmosis, resulting in a brief but dazzling light show. The hive mind representatives of the Zizix collective took one sip of the insomnia bloom nectar and suddenly split into their individual components, each buzzing with newfound individuality. As the stimulants took effect, the lecture hall burst into a cacophony of excited chatter. Ideas were exchanged rapid fire, cultural barriers seemed to melt away, and impromptu diplomatic negotiations sprang up in every corner. Chancellor Zorblax watched in awe from the back of the hall, their starry skin twinkling with amazement. "In all my cycles," they muttered, "I've never seen anything like this." Meanwhile, in the Academy's Xenobotany lab, Professor Quark was leading another group of alien scientists in studying the insomnia bloom. The plant had thrived in its new environment, and efforts were underway to synthesize its nectar for mass production. "The applications are endless," Professor Quark explained, his spores glowing with excitement. "Imagine long-distance space travel without the need for cryosleep, or the ability to terraform inhospitable planets in a fraction of the time." As the day wore on, the effects of the caffeinated diplomacy became clear. Trade agreements were sketched out on napkins, cultural exchange programs were enthusiastically proposed, and more than a few interspecies research projects were born. Emily found herself in the middle of it all, fielding questions and facilitating connections. She caught sight of Jason, who was teaching a group of gelatinous aliens how to do handstands. "It's all about balance and core strength," he was saying, demonstrating a perfect handstand. "The coffee helps with the focus, but the real trick is in the distribution of mass." The gelatinous aliens attempted to mimic him, resulting in a hilarious display of wobbling and splashing. But they were laughing, or what passed for laughter in their species, and the bond of shared experience was palpable. As the event began to wind down, Emily was approached by a tall, elegant alien with iridescent feathers and compound eyes. The alien introduced herself as Ambassador Lyrax of the Galactic Council. "Ms. Emily," the ambassador said, her voice melodious, "I must say, I'm impressed. What we've witnessed here today goes beyond mere cultural exchange. You've shown us the power of your human coffee as a tool for unity and understanding." Emily blushed, suddenly aware of the magnitude of what had transpired. "Thank you, Ambassador. But it's not just about the coffee or the nectar. It's about coming together, sharing experiences, and finding common ground, even if that ground is just needing a pick-me-up in the morning." Ambassador Lyrax nodded sagely. Indeed, The Galactic Council has been watching Earth's progress with great interest. We had our doubts about integrating such a young species into the galactic community, but after today, those doubts have been, shall we say, percolated away. The ambassador's compound eyes twinkled with what Emily could have sworn was humor. We would like to extend an invitation to humanity. How would you feel about establishing the first human embassy in the galactic capital? Emily's jaw dropped. This was beyond anything she or any of the human students had imagined when they first arrived at the academy. I'm honored, Ambassador, but I'm just a student. Surely there are more qualified. Ambassador Lyrax raised a feathered appendage. My dear, what we need isn't just qualification. We need passion, adaptability, and the ability to bridge divides. You and your fellow humans have demonstrated all of these qualities and more. Besides, she added with a chittering laugh, I have a feeling we're going to need someone who really understands coffee. As the news spread, excitement rippled through the human students. They gathered in the common area, buzzing with caffeine and possibility. An embassy? For real? Jason exclaimed, nearly falling out of his handstand. Zixlorp's scales shimmered with joy. This is wonderful news. You'll be able to share your culture with the entire galaxy. Gloop burbled thoughtfully. But what about your studies here at the Academy? Emily looked around at her friends, human and alien alike. The past few months had been a crash course in interstellar relations, one that no textbook could have prepared them for. I think, she said slowly, that this is our chance to take what we've learned here and apply it on a galactic scale. As the humans excitedly discussed the future, Gloop noticed something strange. The potted plants around the common area, which had been assimilating trace amounts of spilled coffee and insomnia bloom nectar, were beginning to change. Their leaves were taking on a purple tinge, and the air around them seemed to buzz with energy. But that was a mystery for another day. For now, humanity had taken its first real step into the galactic community, armed with nothing more than a love for coffee and an insatiable curiosity about the universe. Little did they know, their caffeinated adventures were only just beginning. The stimulant space race. The establishment of the human embassy on the galactic capital marked a new era of interstellar relations. As humanity's influence spread, so did its most potent export, caffeine. Coffee shops and insomnia bloom caves sprouted across the galaxy like stars in the night sky. But with great power came great competition, and it wasn't long before the galaxy found itself in the midst of a new kind of space race. Emily, now serving as the youngest human diplomat in galactic history, stood before the Galactic Council, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. The council chamber was abuzz with energy, and not just because of the caffeinated beverages being passed around. Esteemed members of the council, Emily began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We've called this emergency session to address the growing concerns about the stimulant situation. Ambassador Lyrax nodded, her iridescent feathers rippling with concern. Indeed, it seems that in our eagerness to embrace human caffeine culture, we've sparked something of an arms race among the galaxy's chemists and botanists. Holograms flickered to life around the chamber, displaying news reports from across the galaxy. Breaking news from the Andromedean Nebula. Zorgan scientists claim to have developed a beverage that keeps consumers awake for an entire solar cycle. Quartzar crystalsmiths unveil clarity shards, chewable stimulants that promise to boost cognitive function by 500%. Methane Cafe franchise explodes across gas giant settlements. It's coffee, but you breathe it. Emily sighed, taking a long sip of her coffee. When we introduced coffee to the galaxy, we had no idea it would lead to this. Some of these new stimulants are pushing the boundaries of safety, not to mention galactic law. The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of concerned voices and waving appendages. It took several minutes and a booming intervention from Chancellor Zorblax to restore order. What do the humans propose we do about this? A crystalline being from Quartzar chimed, its facets glittering with skepticism. Emily set down her mug and straightened her shoulders. We propose a joint initiative, the Galactic Caffeine Control and Research Division. Its mission will be twofold: to regulate the production and distribution of stimulants across the galaxy, and to push the boundaries of safe stimulant research for the benefit of all species. The proposal was met with murmurs of approval, but a voice from the back of the chamber cut through the noise. And who would lead this division? The humans. How convenient. Emily turned to face the speaker, a shadowy figure representing the enigmatic Umbra Collective. Actually, she said with a smile, we were hoping it would be a collaborative effort. In fact, we'd like to propose a grand challenge to the galaxy's greatest minds. The chamber fell silent, all eyes and other sensory organs fixed on Emily. We challenge the galaxy to develop the ultimate stimulant, one that's safe for all known species, provides optimal cognitive enhancement, and can be easily produced and distributed. The team that succeeds will not only lead the new division, but will also go down in galactic history. The council chamber exploded with excitement. The idea of a sanctioned, competitive research initiative appealed to the scientific and adventurous spirit of the assembled species. Within hours, research teams were being formed, crossing species and planetary boundaries. Back at the Galactic Academy, now a hub for cutting-edge xenobiology research, Professor Quark's lab was a hive of activity. The insomnia bloom had continued to evolve, hybridizing with various plant species from across the galaxy. Its newest iteration, dubbed Cosmic Crop by the excitable human students, showed promise as a universal stimulant base. Zixlorp and Gloop, now graduate students, were at the forefront of the research. They had assembled a diverse team, including Jason, whose understanding of human physiology and penchant for handstands had proved unexpectedly useful, and a rotating cast of alien experts. The key, Zixlorp explained, his scales flickering with excitement as he examined a holographic molecular model, is to find a compound that can adapt to different physiologies. Something that can be a stimulant for humans, a cognitive enhancer for crystalline beings, and a metabolic booster for methane breathers. Gloop burbled in agreement, its gelatinous form rippling with calculations. We're close to a breakthrough. The Cosmic Crop's adaptive properties are unlike anything we've seen before. As research teams across the galaxy raced to develop the ultimate stimulant, humanity found itself pushing the boundaries of space exploration. Caffeinated crews ventured further into the unknown, establishing outposts and colonies at an unprecedented rate. Emily, juggling her diplomatic duties with frequent visits to the Academy, couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. She stood by a viewport in the human embassy, gazing out at the glittering expanse of the galaxy. "Penny for your thoughts," came a familiar voice. Emily turned to see Jason, who had just returned from a deep space expedition. "Just thinking about how it all started," Emily replied with a smile. "One cup of coffee in a college cafeteria, and now look at us. We're reshaping the galaxy." Jason chuckled, performing a quick handstand out of sheer habit. "Yeah, who would have thought our caffeine addiction would turn into a force for galactic unity?" Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from the Academy. Professor Quark's team had made a breakthrough. The Cosmic Crop had been successfully synthesized into a universal stimulant, safe and effective for every known species in the galaxy. As news of the breakthrough spread, celebrations erupted across the stars. The stimulant space race had produced not just a miracle compound, but a new era of cooperation and understanding among the galaxy's diverse inhabitants. In the following weeks, as the Galactic Caffeine Control and Research Division was established with Professor Quark at its head, Emily found herself once again addressing the Galactic Council. "Distinguished members of the Council," she began, her voice filled with pride and hope. "Today marks not just the end of the stimulant space race, but the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. We've shown that when we come together, pooling our knowledge and resources, we can achieve the impossible." She paused, looking around at the assembled aliens, beings she now considered not just allies, but friends. But more importantly, we've learned that the greatest stimulant of all isn't found in a plant or synthesized in a lab. It's the thrill of discovery, the joy of cooperation, and the endless curiosity that drives us to explore the unknown. As applause filled the chamber, Emily couldn't help but think of that first day at the Galactic Academy, when a simple cup of coffee had started it all. Little did she know, the galaxy's caffeine-fueled adventures were far from over. A new threat was brewing on the horizon, one that would test the limits of their newfound unity and push humanity to its limits. But that was a story for another day. For now, the galaxy raised its mugs, tentacles, and assorted appendages in a toast to a brighter, more caffeinated future. Percolating peace, the galaxy was buzzing, and not just from the effects of the newly developed universal stimulant. In the years following the great stimulant space race, a golden age of intergalactic cooperation had dawned. The Galactic Caffeine Control and Research Division, under the joint leadership of Professor Quark and a diverse council of alien scientists, had ushered in an era of unprecedented productivity and innovation. But as any student of history could attest, peace is often the precursor to conflict. And in the vast, caffeinated expanse of the galaxy, a storm was brewing. Emily, now a seasoned diplomat and unofficial ambassador of awakeness, was enjoying a rare moment of quiet in her office at the human embassy when an urgent transmission came through. The holographic form of Ambassador Lyrax flickered into existence, her usually immaculate feathers ruffled with concern. "Mealy, we have a situation," Lyrax said without preamble. "The Umbra Collective has gone dark." Emily's blood ran cold. The Umbra Collective, a mysterious consortium of shadow-dwelling beings from the darkest corners of the galaxy, had always been outliers in galactic politics. They had grudgingly accepted the spread of caffeine culture, but never fully embraced it. "Define gone dark," Emily said, already reaching for her emergency go-bag. Lyrax's image flickered. "All communication with their home systems has ceased. Our long-range scans show nothing. It's as if their entire sector of space has been swallowed by a void." Within hours, the Galactic Council had convened an emergency session. Theories flew back and forth across the chamber like comets. Perhaps they've achieved a higher plane of existence. Could it be some sort of mass cloaking technology? What if they're planning an invasion? As the council debated, Emily's mind raced. She thought back to her academy days, to the lessons on xenobiology, and the strange, shadow-like physiology of the Umbra species. And then it hit her. "What if," she said, her voice cutting through the din, "they're not gone at all? What if they're just asleep?" The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Umbra were known to enter periods of dormancy, but never on such a massive scale. Chancellor Zorblax's starry skin pulsed with realization. The stimulants. They've been fighting the effects all this time. And now they've crashed, Emily finished. Hard. The situation was dire. An entire sector of the galaxy was essentially comatose, creating a power vacuum that threatened the stability of neighboring systems. And worse, without the Umbra's unique abilities to navigate dark matter currents, vital trade routes were in jeopardy. "We need to wake them up," Emily declared. "And I think I know how." In the days that followed, the galaxy witnessed the largest, most ambitious rescue mission in its history. Led by Emily and a crack team of human and alien experts, a fleet of ships converged on the Umbra sector, each carrying a precious cargo, the most potent, carefully calibrated batch of the universal stimulant ever created. Zixlor, now head of the Academy's Xenobiology Department, had worked tirelessly with Gloop and a team of Umbra expatriates to modify the stimulant. "It's not just about waking them up," he explained, his scales shimmering with intensity. "We need to ease them out of their slumber gently, or we risk sending their entire civilization into a state of jittery panic." As the fleet approached the edge of Umbra space, they encountered their first challenge, a wall of absolute darkness that seemed to devour light itself. "Well, Jason quipped from his position at the helm of the lead ship. "I guess we know why they call it the Umbra Collective." Using specially designed probes infused with trace amounts of the modified stimulant, the fleet began to map safe passages through the darkness. Slowly, cautiously, they made their way deeper into Umbra territory. The scene that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Entire planets were wrapped in cocoons of shadow, cities floating in a sea of inky blackness, and everywhere, the unmistakable presence of billions of sleeping beings. "Begin the dispersion," Emily ordered. Across the fleet, specialized devices began to atomize the modified stimulant, releasing it into the void. For a tense hour, nothing happened. And then, like stars flickering to life, points of consciousness began to appear in the darkness. The Umbra were awakening. As the slumbering civilization stirred, the rescue team worked tirelessly to establish communication and provide aid. Emily found herself in marathon negotiation sessions with groggy Umbra leaders, explaining the situation and offering assurances of galactic support. "We understand your concerns," she said to the Umbra High Chancellor, a being of living shadow whose form seemed to shift and swirl. "The spread of stimulant culture was never meant to harm your way of life. We want to work with you, to find a balance that respects your needs while allowing you to participate in galactic affairs." The Umbra High Chancellor's voice was like velvet darkness. "Your words are stimulating, Ambassador. Perhaps there is a way forward, a middle ground between the light of consciousness and the restful dark." As negotiations progressed, a new era of understanding began to dawn. The Umbra, with their unique perspective and abilities, proved to be invaluable partners in pushing the boundaries of stimulant research. They helped develop new, gentler formulations that could enhance cognitive function without disrupting natural sleep cycles. In return, the galactic community gained a deeper appreciation for the importance of rest and rejuvenation. Nap pods became standard fixtures in offices and public spaces across the galaxy, allowing beings of all species to find moments of restorative darkness in their busy, caffeinated lives. Months after the crisis began, Emily stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, she was not alone. Beside her stood the Umbra High Chancellor, their shadowy form a stark contrast to the bright lights of the chamber. "Esteemed members of the Council," Emily began, "we stand here today not just as representatives of our respective civilizations, but as symbols of a new galactic paradigm. One that recognizes that true progress comes not from constant stimulation, but from a harmonious balance of activity and rest, light and dark, awakeness and sleep." The Umbra High Chancellor's voice resonated through the chamber. "We have learned that isolation is not the answer. By finding common ground, or perhaps I should say, common grounds," they added with a ripple that might have been the Umbra equivalent of a chuckle, "we can create a more vibrant, diverse, and resilient galactic community." As the council erupted in applause, Emily couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought them to this point. From a simple cup of coffee in a college cafeteria to reshaping the very fabric of galactic society. It had been one hell of a ride. Later, as she shared a celebratory drink with her friends, coffee for the humans, insomnia bloom nectar for some of the aliens, and a curiously dark, restful brew for the Umbra representatives, Emily raised her mug in a toast. "To the power of caffeine," she said with a grin, "for teaching us that the greatest adventures happen when we're wide awake to the wonders of the universe." As mugs, tentacles, and shadow tendrils clinked together, the stars seemed to twinkle a little brighter. The galaxy had faced its greatest challenge yet and had come out stronger, more united, and perhaps a little more jittery. But that was okay. After all, as any human could tell you, the best stories always start with a good cup of coffee. The end.